Hey guys, Aileen here. Just wanted to start the channel off the right way by explaining to you guys what premature menopause really is. And kind of explain a little bit, because a lot of times people get the terms incorrect. And if you're going to be going to a doctor and discussing these things, it helps to know what you're discussing. So, a lot of times people say they're going through menopause, and I am definitely guilty of saying this. But menopause actually means that you've been without a period for 12 months. So menopause is actually like a point that you meet or that you get to. Anything before that is peri-menopause. And the peri-menopause time frame is typically 1 to 4 years, but it can actually last up to 10 years, which is ridiculous. But early menopause is considered anybody under the age of 45, because typically the age of menopause is between 45 and 55, with the typical year being 52. So anything before 45 is considered early menopause. Anything before the age of 40 is considered premature menopause. And premature menopause is considered rare. I think that's because a lot of people just go unknowing and suffer through it. But they call it rare, and they say that less than 200,000 cases happen every year. So the causes for early menopause or premature menopause, or peri-menopause rather, because obviously we're not reaching that point yet. We're just going through the process of changing. Before I go into the causes, the basic definition of peri-menopause is when your ovaries start declining their function. So basically your body pumps out hormones systematically, pretty regular, most people. And a lot of people, there are a lot of exceptions to this rule. But for the most part, once you start menstruating, during adolescence, during puberty, such a fun time, your body starts shooting out these hormones to regulate your body, to keep it in optimal baby-making mode, I guess you could call it. But these hormones do a lot more for your body than make it possible for you to get pregnant or have a baby or whatever. They do a lot of things to keep your body safe, to keep it together, and so that's why so many things start falling apart once the function starts depleting. And this is different for everyone. It can start really slowly. For me, there was a period of about 3 years where it was really, really steady and slow, and then it hit me really quick, with all the other symptoms rushing in together. And that can be the way it works with you, or it can just go steady. I've heard of people going through the whole perimenopause state without any symptoms at all, and I envy these people very much, but I'm not one of them, and you probably won't be one of them either. So some of the causes for premature or early menopause would be family history. If your mother has through menopause at an early age, then you are more likely to as well. Certain things going into the body, smoking can cause early menopause or premature menopause. Also chemotherapy, which makes perfect sense, because if you know what chemotherapy it is, it's basically poison going into your body hoping to kill more of the bad stuff than the good stuff. And if you survive, then you might be cancer-free. But chemotherapy can cause early menopause or premature menopause. Surgical removal of the ovaries or the uterus or both. And what surprises me about this one is that doctors don't readily tell women when they've had a hysterectomy or they've had some of these things removed that early menopause or premature menopause is a possibility. They'll talk to them about fertility and not having the option of naturally carrying a child, but they forget the peri-menopause issue, which is a really big deal. And so, yeah, if you or someone you know has had their uterus, ovaries, or both removed, they should be keeping an eye on the things that trigger hormone change, because the earlier you catch it, the easier it is to treat. Autoimmune disease. I have an autoimmune disease, and that is why I went into premature menopause or perimenopause. HIV or AIDS. Obviously, that's the same kind of thing as an autoimmune disease. When your body is attacking itself, the chances of that part of the body being attacked are greater. So, chronic fatigue syndrome is another cause for early menopause. Missing chromosomes, and epilepsy. Those are the commonly known causes of early or premature menopause. I like to think that the environment that we live in now, the chemicals and hormones in our food, the pollution in our air and our water also contribute to the increase of early menopause, or even just hormonal imbalance. But I don't have the scientific stuff to back that up. That's just my own theory. So, because we live in a toxic world, and it's really hard to go through this toxic world and not get affected by it. So, now when I said it's easier to treat the earlier you catch, there is no way to turn this off. There's no way to amp up the function of your ovaries to pump out the hormones again. Once it starts to decline, there's really not much you can do as far as reversing that. But what's become common treatment for perimenopause, at least in the United States, and I don't know about elsewhere in the world, is something called hormonal HRT, hormone replacement therapy. There are several kinds of hormone replacement therapy, and I will make a video specifically on the different kinds of hormone replacement therapy, and why some people decide to do it and some people don't, because there are arguments for both sides. What I will recommend now would be that if you suspect that you are going through, or that you are starting to go through perimenopause, you start feeling the symptoms, and there are quite a few symptoms. It took me a couple years to realize that my issues were hormonal, because not many of them really presented as hormonal. But some of the symptoms can be as simple as weight gain. Like, let's say that you don't change anything in your lifestyle and you start to gain weight. Now you're going to say this is just what happens as we get older. That's true. But you start to gain weight, and you pay more attention to your diet, and you amp up the exercise, and nothing happens. This is a sign of hormonal imbalance, because the hormones in your body regulate the way that your body responds to food and exercise. So when your body should be letting go of excess fat, it could be holding on, because it's trying to extract hormones from that fat, because fat tends to hold estrogen and testosterone in it. So if your body is lacking in those things, it's going to do what it can to try to get it. A lot of times, people will feel like they're pregnant. As the hormones level down, your body is trying to regulate it. And I'm not a doctor or a medical professional. I just know what I've gone through. For me, I would feel sudden spikes in estrogen. And I think this was my body trying to regulate what was happening. So I would get pregnancy symptoms so crazy that I would go to the doctor to get a pregnancy test, because I didn't trust the ones at home, because I was still doing all these crazy things. So that is another sign of hormonal imbalance. Basically, if you go to a doctor and you are below the age of 45 and you are complaining of hormone imbalance or hormone issues, they're most likely going to prescribe you some topical cream and perhaps a birth control. Now this is because they are trained to see the typical. And the typical is that most of the time women don't reach the hormonal change until about 45. So when you show up and your symptoms are atypical, they're going to treat you in the typical way. It is really difficult to get a doctor or a gynecologist to understand that somebody under the age of 40, even under the age of 35, because mine all started at age 30. It's really hard for them to understand that this is something other than somebody going to Google and typing something in and saying, oh, I have that. I actually had a doctor tell me to not Google symptoms, and I was like, hello, that is not what I did. Trust me, there's something wrong in my body, and you don't understand it, and you don't listen. And every time I saw this doctor, I left in tears because he didn't listen. There are a couple of things that you can do. Recently, as of a couple of years ago, there is a really great company that came out with home tests. They have a whole bunch of different kind of tests that you can take, but there are two that I would recommend. The first one is a peri-menopause test, and they're going to test it with a little bit of blood from a finger prick. They're going to send you the test. You're going to collect the specimen. You're going to send it back. They're going to test it. They're going to give you the results. The peri-menopause kit is going to test in estradiol, I don't know how to pronounce this, luteinizing hormone, and follicle stimulating hormone, which is FSH. It's gonna test only those three, but those can be pretty telling. The peri-menopause kit is $120. And then if you want a more thorough test, there is a test called the Women's Health Kit. This one is $399. They're going to test with a finger prick and a saliva test or sample, and you're going to be collecting those samples all throughout the month. They send you all of the information in the kit. But they're going to test the estradiol, progesterone, luteinizing hormone, FSH, DHEAs, total testosterone, cortisol, thyroid stimulating hormone, free T3s, free T4s, and thyroid peroxidase antibodies. And I know that I pronounced a lot of those wrong. The company that provides these kits is called Everlywell, and I have a link below. If you use that link, you will get 20% off the total price. What you can do with these tests is you take them in when you see your doctor, and then you have not just symptoms, but you have proof of a test that's been done to test your hormones. And this is really, really critical because a lot of times they're not even going to order this test for you. It's going to be a lot less thorough and a lot more expensive if the doctor prescribes it or orders it, and it's going to take a lot before they get to that point because they don't see the atypical patient very often. So if you feel like you are going through the process of perimenopause and you are under the age of 45 or under the age of 40, I think this kind of home testing, which was not available a couple years ago, is the best option for you because it gives you a tool that you can take with you to the doctor. So you can say, hey, I'd like to talk about HRT and the other treatment plans that we can go into to get rid of these symptoms that I'm feeling. And this is my test results. These are my levels for this, this, and this, and this. And they can't argue with that because that was tested with your blood and saliva, and yeah, it's just a really powerful tool. I wish I had known about it. It probably would have saved me about 3 years of struggle with doctors, and I don't care. It could have cost $1,000 and it still would have been worth it. I went the hard way. I struggled through doctor to doctor to doctor for years before I actually found a doctor that listened, because that's usually what happens with these kind of cases. So I don't want to babble on. I basically just wanted to give you some definitions, some information, and some tools. And I will be putting out a new video very soon to talk about the problem with birth control and why that's not an inefficient, why it's an inefficient method of HRT. So I hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel. I know at this point I don't really have very many videos. It's very new and I'm starting out, but I really do hope to turn this channel into a community where we can share and teach each other and support each other through this wonderful time of life. Hope you guys are having a great day, and I will see you in the next video. All right, bye.